From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, and streaming live on YouTube, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, from TMZ, Derek Kaufman. With Gina Grad on news, Bald Bryant on sound effects, Jordan Harbinger calls in, and we talk to NC2A champion coach Tony Bennett. And now, being separated from his parents and put in a cage would have been an improvement on his childhood. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on. Mandate, get it on. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you. Good day, Gina Grad.
Good day to you.
Handball, Brian.
Can we talk on the low?
Yeah, you're right. I don't need to be lectured by some old man about putting kids in cages. I was raised on a goddamn service porch.
Yeah.
No heat, no air.
No door.
At least the cage would have been a breeze.
Yeah.
A view.
3 hots and a cot. Then
You
I
didn't
got
get a cot?
stuffed up to the attic later on with no ceiling fan, no oscillating fan. Then off to a garage. No insulation.
0 hots.
0 hots. 1 cots. All right. The point is this. I shouldn't. My dad was lecturing about Trump and the cages and the cages. I always say whenever I talk to people, I always act. There's 2 things. I'm going to make fun of you if I act inquisitive, or if I want to take a picture of you and your pet at the airport.
Follow-up questions and pictures are red flags with Adam Carolla.
Oh, never fall prey to follow-up questions and or pictures.
Really? Tell me more.
I just
Ron!
kept saying to my dad, like, just throwing kids in cages. He's like, yep. And I'm like, that seems like bad publicity. He's like, he's a bad man. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but bad guys usually try to keep it under their hat a little bit. Like, this seems like just bad publicity for the sake of bad publicity. He's like, that's who he is. And I'm like, I know he's a bad guy, but don't you think he doesn't want everyone else to know about it? I just ask. Just inquiring minds want to know. This half of the show brought to you by blindsgalore.com. Let them know I sent you. Intuit.com and Castrol Challenge Titanium Strong for maximum engine performance. Now, finally, a little clarity on Cobb's and the girl who was thrown out of Cobb's and the one who bit the bouncer on the ankle and then fought with the cops on the sidewalk and literally almost died when she was sort of flung out into the street with cars buzzing by.
It was quite a night.
Cobb's is on a busy highway. Not a busy highway, but it's people are going by at a pretty good clip.
Middle of the city.
And when the cars are parked and you go in between the cars and pop out, you got about 9 inches of buffer before you hit a bumper.
Right.
So she was almost hit. She was fighting with the cops. I used to joke about this all the time, but I'm kind of getting a little more serious about it. I can't even remember where I used to joke about it, but I always said it's kind of getting to that time. Like, when my kids get to be 15, I'm going to take them to the park with a 40 of malt liquor, and I'm just going to juice them up.
Yep.
And if my daughter starts rubbing my shoulder going, somebody's been working out, I'm going to go, okay. we got to talk.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get Dr. Drew on the blower. We got to fix this one. And if my son busts the 40 and goes, come on, old man.
Bring it.
You want
Come at me,
some?
bro.
You found the right place.
Been looking at me for a long time.
Right, because you really don't know what kind of drunks your kids are going to be.
Yeah.
Now, I like to think everyone here is a pretty good drunk.
I think so.
I'm not.
Who's the worst drunk? Shut up, might be me.
I don't know. I don't.
I just get tired.
You being the drunkenness part of you being drunk cannot be held against you. It's drunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go, I gotta lay down,
Yeah.
I'm shit faced or whatever that is. That's fine. It's called you being drunk. I want to know.
It's with the personality traits that get exacerbated.
Right.
That's
right. And you should know.
We've been on a couple of cruises.
I was going to say, we're all
Everybody's
pretty
good.
Dawson gets loud, but that's just Dawson.
You should know.
It's delightful.
If your kid is going to do something that could possibly get them killed. Like this young lady who was tussling with the bouncers and got thrown out on the street, could have been shot by a cop, could have been hit by a passing car.
Had her parents taken her to the park at age 17.
Right, 15.
Oh,
right.
whatever that pivotal point is.
Yeah, we could have sussed this out. And you should kind of know, and you should figure it out and act accordingly, because there's before the age of 30, in terms of buying it, it's a real good chance you could be shot by a cop, hit by a car, drunk driving yourself, whatever it is, pick the fight with the wrong MMA guy, whatever that thing is.
Climbed a telephone pole.
Most bad things that happen to you before the age of 30, health-wise, or while you're drunk, getting into it with somebody. And thus, we should know what kind of drunk you are, and that's why I'm going to go to the park in 2.5 years. All right, so...
you guys know what kind of drunks you are? Like, do you have enough,
I think I know.
Yeah. You don't get drunk that much.
Yeah, I'm not a big drinker, but if I feel like I've crossed the threshold, I'm pretty drunk, I get, are you ready for this? Way more annoying. Can you imagine?
What?
Because everyone around me gets that much funnier, and I need them to know right before I fall asleep. I got to tell you, you're fucking hilarious. You're so funny. That's it. That's me drunk. I don't really get loud. I don't cry. I hate emotional drinkers.
Oh,
everyone here's good.
That's a good strain. I make plans. I make grand plans. Like, dude, next weekend we're going to Hollywood sign. Like, all I want to do is like make plans with people. The drunkest plans, the best plans get made, but I'm drinking.
Adam, you get very effusive. We love it.
Huggy.
Very huggy. Very nice.
Yeah, I'm a happy drunk, happy-go-lucky drunkie. We got so the letter from Cobb's, the girl from Cobb, she wrote it in. We're trying to figure out when it was. I don't know what the date was, Max Pata.
You read in 2010. So
2010.
January 2010, yeah.
So the letter, Dawson read the letter?
Yeah, so this is when you did shows just by yourself. You kind of answered calls, but when you got the letter, you invited Dawson into the studio to go over the letter with him.
Okay.
Well, let's hear the letter.
So now we have a letter?
Yeah.
This is interesting.
This is interesting. She apparently wrote a letter in it. She typed the letter, but on the top she said, please relay this to Adam, preferably while exhibiting some amount of my embarrassment. Thanks.
What's her name?
We only have her first initial and the last name of Lee, M. Lee. She only signed her initials.
Okay.
Dear Adam, while thrilled to have a lovely podcast to play for my future children when having the drinking is bad conversation, there are a few things I'd like to correct for the record. Right. Thank you. I am petite and attractive, and am thrilled you didn't tell your millions of listeners that I was a total troll. Granted, considering my condition that evening, I am certain I didn't look my best, and thus will forgive your error of thinking I'm 30, when in reality I am 26.
Well, I just said mid-20s a minute ago. So.
Yeah.
All right.
I am not covered in tattoos. I have a half sleeve on my left arm and a quote from John Milton across my back. There is no need to laser away my attitude, as generally it isn't bad. No drugs were involved. Amazingly, I was functioning that evening on nothing but a shit ton of alcohol, and perhaps a wee bit of frustration at having been drunk dialed by everybody at my boyfriend's office holiday party earlier that evening. I forgave him because he did such a good job of holding on to my purse.
Wait a minute, drunk dialed?
I would love more explanation on that part.
At the office party.
Right. How they got her number, I don't know.
All right.
Thank you for helping me make friends. The floor of my holding cell had me out like a light until I got company. Thankfully, I was able to pacify her with a duet of Silent Night and some sympathetic jabber about staying off the crack.
Wow, so she was in there with a Jew. Interesting.
And if you see Katrina, tell her that no, her husband wasn't waiting for her outside, just like she said he wouldn't be. Must be somebody in the cell.
Katrina must have been someone in the drunk tank with her.
I could have chalked your podcast up to a bunch of embellishment for entertainment's sake, until you mentioned me biting the bouncer. At that point, I had to realize you just called one of my signature moves, and you were likely telling the truth.
Well, that's what the bouncer said. And again, some of this is just first-hand reports or second-hand reports I got from the bouncer as they came back into the club. I wasn't out on the sidewalk. He held her down. She attempted to bite him.
All in all, I'd just like to say thanks for the show.
All right. Well, she had a good time, and she was just shit-faced.
Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I know the story is the stuff of legends now, and she sounded like kind of an a-hole at the show, but that letter makes me like her a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about looking in the mirror.
Yeah, as I recall, she was just sitting in Cobb, somewhere in the middle. She's getting very loud.
I'm not covered in tattoos. I have a half sleeve.
And my back.
What?
Yeah. And the rules to Stratego on my left arm, but not covered with tattoos.
No. Memento style to remember certain events.
Yeah, listen, if the parts I can see have tattoos, I'll just go with covered with tattoos.
Is a half sleeve unusual for a lady? Yes, thus you are covered in tattoos.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I would say, I would call a beehive a bunch of bees without knowing what was inside of the beehive
only about
or
10
on
or
the
12 bees in
backside
there.
of the beehive. So either way, she was in there and she was making a lot of noise. And I don't really care for me. I just care for the rest of the audience members. And I always like to give people the opportunity to just sort of zip it and
Settle
sit back down and we could just move on with it. Most people don't take you up on that. And she just kept going. And the bouncers, because it's San Francisco, are like pretty laid back. But eventually I had to go, she just got to remove her so we can continue on with the show. And they did, but she fought them the entire time. And then they went out in the street and they continued to fight. And then the cop showed up. And then she bit the bouncer. And then her boyfriend showed up in my dressing room, wanted to know what I could do about it. I wish I had that kind of sway over at the San Francisco PD.
Or juice.
Just get on the blower.
I know you guys are busy.
Yeah. But no can do. And she went to the drunk tank. And it's also, I am really like, my latest obsession as an adult is focusing on self-imposed pain by adults. Like 1 minute you're sitting at a club
enjoying the
and
show.
you got a beer and you're watching a show, and the next thing you're in a drunk tank, and 100% of it has to do with you.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't throw a net over you and take you out.
No, and this is not drunk driving. This is like, people have been in that position where you had a ride. I've been in a position before where I went to a party and I had my designated driver and I tilted a few, and that guy hooked up with a chick and split, and now I'm left and I don't want to drive, but it's raining outside and there's no Uber, whatever it is.
Yeah.
This ain't that. This is 100% you imposing it on you.
You're in a place where it's perfectly acceptable to be drunk.
Right. There's a lot of that. Don't you guys feel like there's a lot of that going around?
Majority.
Yeah, but
I
unlike,
feel like there's whole countries that are doing that to themselves. Yeah, sorry.
But unlike this girl and her amazing letter she wrote to you, people will take it to their grave that they did nothing wrong.
Right. Well, in their blacked out memory, they did nothing wrong. Now, back to me.
She has circumstantial evidence. That's my move.
Listen.
biting the guy.
Yeah, friends who are more enablers than friends. Like when I'm talking to my dad and I'm asking questions, why would he just take people and throw them in cages, or throw kids in cages? Doesn't seem like a good PR move. You get to say, when the person is saying to you the next day, you're a Cobb's and you're thrown out for nothing, you get to say, as a friend, instead of, that's bullshit, I'm not going to Cobb's. Like, I was going to see David Spade this weekend, but forget it now. Instead of saying that, go, I wonder why they would do that.
Yeah.
And
What a strange thing. What a strange policy.
If that's their policy, how long do you think really they could stay open? If they just pulled out random 26-year-old diminutive women and threw them out in the street, like, it must have been something.
Yeah,
poor
bad
business
Yelp
model.
review.
Then you can say things like, well, maybe they overreacted, but you must have been talking a little or something to provoke it.
You somehow called attention to yourself.
Right.
Nope, do nothing.
You can do, I'll give everyone a tip, and it works, sort of, which is whenever you're getting this version of something from either kids or, sadly, now adults, when they're giving you this version of, I was just sitting, I was doing nothing, I always just say, what would they say?
Oh, yeah.
Because would they say,
Rashomon.
so we were sitting there, and there was this
What's their version of the
little
story?
church mouse sitting in the middle doing nothing, minding her own P's and Q's, laughing at all the punchlines. We went in, and we just grabbed her by the scruff of the neck. Or
I said that can't stand.
what might they say?
Right.
And then the person, if they have a shred of honesty or dignity, and even if they don't, they'll go, Well, we were talking a bit, but not that much. And you'll start to approach the truth because they realize
a little bit.
Their version of what happened coming out of the mouth of the bouncer and the management sounds insane. So you'll go, well, what were they thinking? What do you think they thought?
What's their version
even
of
if
the
they're
story?
wrong, if they were sitting right here.
How would they explain it?
Right.
Yeah.
It's so.
Yep.
All right. I'll be down Friday and Saturday.
Glorious reunion.
Be at Cobb's, man, the 19th and the 20th.
Come
Over
on,
there.
Emily. Get out. Is it possibly Emily?
Is it
Well, because you went by Emily, but I wonder if that's like a homonym kind
Yeah,
of thing. Anyway,
I'll take it.
Come on,
Nom de
Emily. Get
plume.
out there and show
yeah,
up.
with your old 36-year-old ass now. And more tats, I bet you. All right. Let's see. Coach Tony Bennett's fresh off a win. He's calling in. I got a Conway Twitty song that, man.
It hits.
Like in our statutory rape rock.
Yeah.
This kind of a new level.
Oh,
New
Can't
level.
wait.
Now, country's kind of its own category because it's all creepy and it's
Yeah.
all underage and it's all weird. But this is extra weird and for no real good reason. Now we have it. Tony's calling in. I don't know if we want to wait on Tony or.
Can I buy you maybe 20 seconds?
Go ahead.
I don't know if you got tweeted this, but I finally found what might be our greatest and maybe only common ground that will ever be. In this perfect
would hope
universe.
there's one
Me
thing.
too, but nothing's going to top this. Nothing. Did you get the tweet about the Dolly Parton livery on the NASCAR car?
Oh, I think I did get that tweet.
Oh my God! How amazing is that? We're looking at a picture of it right now.
It is
I know
the best.
the NASCAR thing isn't your total jam,
Well,
but
my
I thought
dad
you might have
thinks I'm
seen
on the
this.
circuit.
That's right. He
that's
thought you were.
horrible. I mean, what is that?
Excuse me.
What is
It's a
that?
Dollywood
It's
pink
a
and
Dolly
white.
Parton livery,
Yeah.
and it's awesome. How dare you?
Poor guy's got to drive that car. Like, there's no douche or sleeper cell, like Al-Qaeda sleeper cell that we could put a sticker on the hood. I got to go with this goddamn Dolly Parton. It's embarrassing.
Michael Jackson's estate dropped out.
It's
Come
Tyler,
on, people. What about Cosby? Speaking of
What
motorsports.
about the Neverland car?
Tyler Reddick. It's a Camaro at Bristol, and look at that thing of beauty.
It is sweet.
Okay.
All right. And
You were
it's
saying.
it's pure Dollywood.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do Conway Twitty. Is Conway Twitty still alive? It's a weird thing. I started to write down on my notes. I was at home. I started to write down Conway Twitty, and I just wrote Twitter.
He'd be in his late
That makes
80s
sense.
now, right?
He died in 93.
He ain't
Oh, no.
young.
Oh.
What's that?
He died in 93.
Oh, he wasn't that old.
I just remember seeing a lot of Saturday morning box set commercials for Conway Twitty.
Conway Twitty was one of these guys. They would. I saw this claim 3,000 times as a youngster when I'd watch TV. It's like, Conway Twitty sold more records than the Beatles, and he'd go, but how you're 9, you're living in North Hollywood, you got a black and white Zenith. How are we going to verify
Yeah, you're not.
this stuff? But Conway
You look up
Twitty,
SoundScan, just what you do.
Conway sold a lot of records. He must have sold a lot of records, and
Well, if you dominate a space, the country space, then you're going to sell a lot of records. to
yeah,
the
I was
fans.
never. Country had a sweet spot, 40s, 50s, maybe 60s or something, but it really took a turn in the late 60s, like early 70s. Like way too much hair on dudes. And all right, anyway, we'll play the song. The song's called "You've Never Been This Far Before."
Oy vey.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, you guys should know there was a lot of discussion. Like when I was in junior high, it's like, how far did you get? How
Yeah.
far did you get? At second base, third base, how
Yeah.
far did you get? So you've never been this far before. Max Bat, I don't have any of Tony Bennett's official particular stuff we talked about.
It's on
here.
the page, and I'll put a couple other things on the screen once.
It's on Tony's
on.
page?
Yeah.
I don't have Tony's page is what I'm saying.
Okay, let me check on that.
There.
All right, no one has it. But it's good that it's on the page. But if the page isn't in here, it's a little null and void. All right, he's on one of those like hayride TV shows from the 70s. I'm guessing we can find out. I don't know if 1973 or so. All right, here we go. Conway's just sitting there. He's in his leisure suit. He's got his hair all puffed up.
I can almost hear the stillness as it yields to the sound of your heart beating.
It's creepy, all right.
And I can almost hear the echo of the thoughts that I know you must be thinking.
It's sweet, intimate love song.
Boom, boom, boom.
And I can feel your body tremble as you wonder what this moment holds in store.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bum, bum,
Anticipation.
bum. And as I put my arms around you, I can tell you've never been this far before.
All right,
It's
hold
on
on. Let's
network
pause
TV.
it for a second. Now, look,
Him staring down the camera doesn't make it any better.
you could be dealing with like a very devout Mormon who is 28,
Save yourself for marriage.
but it's better than not chance you're dealing with a 14-and-a-half-year-old,
Yeah. What's
right?
the best case scenario? This is wedding night. You know, this is someone
Yeah.
who saved themselves. Very religious.
22-year-olds.
I would argue we need to set the table. Like, if this is the wedding night, you know, I carried you across
That's
the
right.
threshold,
Threshold.
you're
Yeah,
now my bride.
sure.
You know,
You said I
your
do.
white dress swishing
yeah,
in the
right.
winds.
Something, not just pick it up in the middle of sex. But here we go. Sorry, go ahead,
Cut
Don.
the chase.
Bum, bum, bum. I don't know what I'm saying as my trembling fingers touch forbidden places.
Forbidden places.
Bum, bum, bum.
Forbidden places.
Is this on regular television? Family television?
This is regular family TV, as best I could tell. In the 70s, this would be just the kind of thing that'd be on the TV, and you're like, ugh. It's like that, all those hee-haw type shows.
Yeah, but that's people jumping out of hay and telling a knock-knock joke.
Yeah, but then they would sing. Roy Clark would sing a bunch of songs like in the. They'd always have musical acts.
God.
So this guy's got a weird, scary hairdo, kind
Yeah.
of a puffy, slicked back hairdo with a gray pork chop, sideburns.
This is a number 1 hit on the country charts. This is number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100. This is a crossover hit.
Oh, my God.
And he's wearing this sort of salmon leisure suit,
Yeah.
white patent leather shoes.
If he's 39, that's a tough 39.
Yes.
I only know I've waited for so long for the chance that we're taking.
Boom, boom, boom.
I don't know and I don't care what made you tell him you don't love him anymore.
It's her legal guardian.
And as I taste your tender kisses, I can tell you've never been this far before. Bum, bum, bum.
This is the leader in the clubhouse in 2 of my musical categories. One, statutory rock.
Sure.
Also, lazy rock. Like, he's sitting on a stool. He's barely moved his face. Like, he's got the mic in one hand and the elbow perched against his thigh, and he literally hasn't moved.
Yeah, it's a little
Boom,
Thorazine.
boom, boom.
His mouth is moving and his eyes are kind of moving. Other than that, I don't think there's been a muscle twitch.
No.
You couldn't move his hair
Oh, no.
if you had a leaf blower.
And as I take the love you're giving, I can feel the tension building in your mind.
Okay.
Oh, you're mixing it up there.
And you're wondering if tomorrow I'll still love you like I'm loving you tonight.
Is that his
Honey,
orgasm?
not only will I love you tomorrow, but I will take your Scooby-Doo lunchbox and I will pack it with peanut butter and jelly and the good, smooth, skippy
Yeah.
stuff.
I'll write your name on my shoes.
That's right.
You have no way of knowing. But tonight will only make me love you more.
Lucky her.
Boom, boom, boom.
And I hope that you'll believe me, 'cause I know you've never been this far before.
Oh, boy.
He seems to be stuck on that.
Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum.
I guess I always think about it, or like I always think about the backing band guys. You know, the guys playing the bass was in a Doors cover band. You know, and that guy was rocking. He was doing Break On Through like 2 nights ago, and I just got to get out there, boom, boom, boom.
He looks like he's applying for a bank loan.
He went to high school with Leonard Skinner.
The poor drummer, like drummers who can't drum because of the song, like why? It's literally like getting into a race car, but you can't go faster than 28 miles an hour, and then we just put you out on the course. Like it's Autopia. Yeah, you're just going in a circle with this drum kid.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think he's getting at? I mean, he's talking about. I talked to your man you used to love before, or something. Like, what?
Considering it's the country charts and the country genre, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is like, a waiting till marriage kind of thing. Like, you broke off an engagement and now we're together, but oh boy.
You're being very kind,
I'm being very kind.
Maybe it's
somebody left prom crying and went to their
Let me put a
dad's
happy
friend's
spin
house.
on this. Maybe this is a physical distance thing. Like, I'm taking you to Mexico.
Oh,
to
for
fuck
sex.
you.
For sex.
Yes. And you've never been. You've been to Arkansas, but you've never been across the border.
The county line.
Yeah.
We're crossing state lines.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe you physically never traveled that far before to be violated. It's also weird when they're trembling all the time.
There's so much trembling talk.
And conflict in your mind.
Yeah. And what about her burning parts, or what was it?
When they're trembling, isn't that on you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if your kids are scared to death of you, that's kind of on you.
Yeah, you gotta set the mood, man.
As my trembling fingers touch forbidden places.
Forbidden. Well,
maybe is that a painting at a museum that says, please don't touch.
Forbidden does imply the laws involved. or God, the ultimate law. But some laws being violated.
He's a predator.
Again, you could just change a couple of words. Well, first off, you're not legally obliged to sing about raping. Mm-hmm. You can sing about outdoors.
Yeah.
Or cars.
Yeah.
Beach Boys were smart. They sung about cars.
Cars and surfing.
Yeah.
No one has a problem with cars. Even a new car is still fine.
Sure.
The car's 2 years old. It's not like singing about a 2-year-old.
Right.
So you sing about cars and you sing about going to the beach.
Catch a wave and you're sitting on the
right.
So you got the whole thing.
And in this one, you could write the same horrible song. I don't know why this song's even attractive to anybody, but you could write this whole song and change a lyric or two and make it just fine.
Imply that she's legal.
Didn't have to get creepy with it.
No, you didn't.
But they did, man.
And add a couple lines at the beginning, a little intro, like it's our wedding night. You know what I mean? I'm carrying over the threshold.
Boom, boom, boom. Also, that's the laziest thing in the world, right? When you just stop and go boom, 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 boom.
God.
Do you rehearse that? Like, do you have to rehearse that with the band, or you just go, hey, guys, when I stop, you just go boom, boom, boom. But on the sixth one, you go, hey, hey, hey. There's one guy going boom, hey.
Look, Conway, I like the bum, bum, bums. That's good. But we got to change it up at the end. Can you give me something different?
Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Like Raj and Rerun. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Coach
Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett's not picking up the phone, so.
Well, he's probably still drunk from all the champagne.
Yeah,
it's a late
so we'll
night
see
last
if
night.
we can catch up to him. Yes,
Well,
Gina Graham.
I'll tease a news story then. Unfortunately, I do have a very unfortunate tie-in with the song that we just played.
Really?
That I would imagine you have probably heard of, but I had never heard of it.
There's a sequel?
I can tell you what it is right now.
There's another song?
No, there's a news story about Bill Wyman from the Rolling Stones.
Oh.
Are you familiar with his past?
Didn't he marry a 14-year-old or something?
He sure did.
Really young.
Yeah, I don't know how familiar you are, but he is being uninvited to a speaking engagement, and I have some of the details on exactly what went down about 3 decades ago.
Do we make exceptions for guys that are under 145 pounds? Well, here's what I'm saying. When Brian will know about this, I think. But when I was at North Hollywood High, they had a B team.
Okay.
And the way the B team
that
went
B's for Brian.
is they had a max of, you couldn't be over 160 pounds and play on the B team.
Okay.
But there were seniors who were on the B team. But if you were a senior, you couldn't be over like 145 or something, because they would deduct 5 pounds or
Sure,
10 pounds
you
for
were
every
17
grade,
years old.
for every grade you were, or something like that. So they had this weird kind of sliding scale
sense.
that if you want to play with a bunch of 15-and-a-half-year-olds and you're 18,
Sure.
you can't be their size. You
Okay.
got to be a smaller version of an 18-year-old.
So does that mean Jared Leto could be with 10-year-olds?
Well,
What are you implying?
boy or girl, what I'm saying
very
is
pretty.
What I'm saying is this: let's just do let's just do like a Brock Lesnar, Jason Momoa math, right? If you go like Brock Lesnar, yeah, he's with a 14-year-old. You go, oh my God,
Jesus.
like Jesus, good God, right? But if you did it with super spindly dude, it just cushions the blow a little.
So to
I
speak.
mean, okay.
You know, it's like someone went like, watch. Oh, we'll do a reenactment. You go, Jesus, I came in your hotel room the other day and you were having sex with a dude.
That's
And
my
then
line?
Yeah,
Okay.
you say that to me.
Jesus, I came in your hotel room the other day and you were having sex with that dude.
Asian dude.
Yeah.
See that?
Okay.
That worked?
Does soften the blow.
Now watch. Do it again.
Jesus, I came in your hotel room the other day and you're having sex with that dude.
That was one hairy Armenian.
Yeah, it was.
See?
Up top.
There's a little difference.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the story. We'll make
It's
our
an
final.
important difference.
Okay.
Sometimes not
Can't wait to tell you all
recognized by
about
the
it.
law.
Sure.
I was going to say, Michael Jackson's the ultimate example.
He got away with murder because of his weirdness and his wafiness.
That's right.
And his hairlessness.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So let's see. We got a funny Road Hard backer story that I don't know. We'll get Kaylin mad in here or over there and we'll talk about it. But I've owed this guy a lunch for like 6 years. I'm gonna make good on it. You know, the thing that's funny is Mike always shows up to these things, and I don't know if these people want Mike or not, but he's down for the free food.
On the cruise, he was at all your, all the.
He
little,
chaperones
Yeah.
any of these meals with fans.
Where
He's
you
so
guys going?
responsible.
But he just sits
Come
there.
on,
and-
our backer, we're taking them sushi.
he just sits there and eats and goes, "Guess whose shoes these are?" And he points down at his feet. So what is this from, Matt? You can tell me.
Sure. So back in March of 2015, you were going around doing various screenings of Road Hard across the country. And a lot of times the screenings had VIP events that would follow it, sort of like a meet and greet. So we had we had one of those set up in San Francisco, and apparently the location of the VIP after party changed. I believe at the venue there may have been a last-minute decision about just having everybody hang out in the lobby as opposed to going to the hotel across the street, something to that effect.
Sounds familiar.
So we basically had a guy who was waiting, I imagine a slow tear running from his eye, at the VIP party at the hotel, and nobody showed up.
But he's left by now. These are the kind of
Sure
answers
hope so.
people give me.
We can check.
So he was left out.
He was left out, and he wrote a letter to us kind of explaining the situation. And, he seemed like we kind of burned him a little bit. So we wanted to make it good. So immediately got back in touch with him and said, listen, we're going to set up a lunch. If you're coming to L.A., we'll make it happen. Or next time Adam comes to San Francisco, we're going to make it happen. But as it turns out, you have not been to San Francisco in enough time to pull this off.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
The day of reckoning is coming.
Yeah, until
So-
now.
Is this a lunch? Is this a beer? What was the original?
Essentially, it's he and a buddy are going to go grab lunch and then go see the show.
Oh, okay.
That's basically what's
So
going
we'll
down.
figure
He
that
and a
out
buddy?
for
Wait, do you have to be
Saturday.
there?
That's right. So I am the hero because I have had this email flagged since 2015. And when I saw that you were going back to San Francisco, I was like, this is going to make one hell of a story. Let me reach out to this guy. Hey, remember us? Well, we're coming back, and we're going to make it happen.
What did he say?
He said, hell yeah,
I've
bro.
moved. I've moved
yeah,
to
Delta Food.
Nevada.
Well, good. All right. What's that fella's name? Do we have
His
it?
name is Derek.
Derek. Oh, we got Derek coming in here.
That's right. We
All
do.
the
Our
Dereks.
guest, yeah.
That is Bald's buddy, Derek,
All
and
right,
my
yeah.
hero
Your
from
hero.
TMZ. Funny guy on TMZ. I love that show. Brian doesn't know him from TMZ, but he knows him
I know
from,
him from
Daddy
daycare.
Daycare.
I thought he was my buddy, but I'm reading here on his bio, says meeting new parents is the worst part of parenting. I think
that's
Derek and I are
Brian.
going to have a
You
conversation.
don't want to have to hear it like this.
All right, let's knock out a quick Castrol challenge. You can tweet us at Adam Carolla Show with your hashtag Castrol Challenge with your questions brought to you by Castrol Edge, formulated with fluid titanium technology, reduces friction, maximizes engine performance 3 times.
3 times, fool.
Stronger against viscosity breakdown, leading full synthetics. What do you got? What do you got there, Max Bada?
All right. At Nate Robot on Instagram wants to know, #Castrol Challenge, what are the pros and cons of rear, mid, or front engine?
Well, front engines typically are all the weight's in the front, so when you're going in the corner, the car will understeer. It'll kind of push, you know what I mean? And then put the engine in the rear, like a Porsche 911, and then you get the oversteer. The weight wants to snap around and go around. Mid-engine is why all the race cars and Formula One cars and everything are mid-engine, because it's sort of right behind the driver and it gets that sort of center gravity where you want it, closer to the sort of 50-50 line. What they're also doing, or what they will do, is take the front engine and push it behind where the front axle would be. Like if you looked at a car and you looked at the center, the hub of the thing, and the wheel was moved behind, the engine was behind that line, that would be a front mid-engine car. If you can get it your side, driver's side of the front axle is now considered a mid-engine car because you moved it off that axle.
Are most of your cars rear engine?
No. The only rear engine cars there are, let's see, Porsche, VW, and famously unsafe at any speed, Chevrolet Corvair. And, like VW buses and stuff, like anything in the VW, German, anything Hitler signed off on is rear engine. And then the only American thing I can think of is a Corvair, although somebody will figure this one out probably. And there's not much. It's kind of a weird, exotic placement if you think about it. The engine is hanging out behind the rear axles. Doesn't seem like it's going to work. And then what they'll do is they'll put the fuel tank in the front to get the weight in the front. But then imagine you have 16 or 18 gallons of fuel in the front. It's 6 pounds a gallon or whatever, creating a bunch of weight in the front. But now you burn through all the fuel. It completely changes the dynamic in the car because you just got rid of 150 pounds in the front of the car. Yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird. And that's why they have adjustable sway bars, kids. All right. Castrol Edge, everybody. Thank you for that question. I hope you guys learned things or not.
We definitely learned something we never knew before. That's for sure.
There will be a test, Gina.
Okay.
You have a what update? So in the world of, I'm not clairvoyant. I don't invent things. I just go into businesses or observe businesses or see things, and then I go, you guys should do this. And then everyone goes, shut up. And I go, okay.
On the next episode of The Knowing Consultant.
And they go, like, I had a conference call with Brother P. Touch way over a decade ago.
Back in the radio days.
Yeah, way, more than 10 years ago. And I said to Brother P. Touch, and you got to figure this out, Max. I said 2 things. I said, 1, you guys should have spell check because I can't spell very well, and you guys are a computer or whatever. You got a chip in there. Like, have a spell check, and that'd be helpful. And then number 2, you need a cutter, and your cutter, instead of just being a straight edge cutter, needs to be hot dog end, half circle, because everything I label is a tool or drawer. Or I'll give you an example. Back when people used to have portable phones in their house, with the charger and the whatever, we would have the upstairs phone on the charger, and then there was the downstairs phone on the charger, and then there was the one in the bedroom, and they'd always get mixed and matched. So I started putting labels on them, upstairs or downstairs, kitchen phone or whatever. But it would always get dog-eared because, so then your choice was to take scissors and try to cut with a bunch of straight lines, a semicircle around.
That's exactly what I did right there.
Round the edge.
It's all my only choice with Brother P Touch at the time.
And I was telling Brian showed me the number on the wallet, and I was trying to tell those guys, you need an auxiliary cutter that cuts half circle, and they're like, okay, all right, let us handle this. We'll do this. And I was like, and then recently I had Peter at my house, and he was making things, and they were all perfectly half circled, and then he's like, I have the cutter. He bought a separate cutter, whatever, but they didn't exist when I was bitching about it. And Brother P-Touch was laughing me off the phone, and I was explaining, no, it's aesthetically much better to have the circle.
That's a good bit, Adam. That's the reason why we're sponsoring your show. You always bring the funny.
But it doesn't peel on the phone, and then doesn't get all sticky and get a pube in it.
Pod card.
Yeah, so back in 2006, early January 2006, we were talking to a representative named Elise Eberwein.
Oh, U.S. Airways.
U.S. Airways. And I was saying I couldn't figure this conundrum out. I was flying back and forth, East Coast, West Coast, going back and forth. And a lot of those flights I took at night, red eye, blah, 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 they would shut all the cabin lights off and give you a blanket. I mean, they were this close to just coming up behind you with an ether rack. I got a sock dipped in ether. Nobody's ordering any food. No one's getting any drinks. No one's hitting any summons, anything. Here you go. It's 10:45. Here's a blanket. Go to bed. And then we'll wake up in L.A. or New York or whatever. We'll see you then. And I started thinking about I'm going to watch a movie and have a few cocktails. Here's a pillow. Go to bed.
Here's an Ambien.
Right. And I'm sort of thinking, well, of course, it's better. It's easier for them. If everyone's asleep, it's easier. If everyone's awake and ordering and trays and food and everything else, it's a hassle. So whoever's working that flight loves that shift. If you get the breakfast shift, it sucks. Everyone's up. Everyone's reading a newspaper. Everyone's ordering things and refreshing and topping off. Wants more coffee, blah, blah, blah. You get that 10:30 flight to L.A. and everyone's like, we're going to bed. And you just shut all the lights. And then the flight attendant doesn't have to work the whole flight. They can sit on read their paper on their jump seat. Anyway, so I was like, all right. And I put my headphones in and I was scrolling through the channels. And it was they got rap, they got hip hop, they got country and Western. We got two different types of country music here. And it was all stuff. They had 14 channels that they programmed themselves, but there's nothing you could sleep to. And this is, again, it's before everyone had a smartphone and a personal whatever and all that.
Beholden to what they had.
You plugged in. Yeah. They gave you the headphones. Here, plug these in and go to bed. But I can't go to bed because, and they do this thing you're flying American Airlines.
Constant announcements.
You're listening to American Airline Radio, the greatest airline. It's you're not a radio station. You pre-record all this stuff. You load it up into the armrest and you have 14 stations. Have one for sleep. Have the one for the thing you want everyone to do on the goddamn flight. Just put the one in there. Yeah. And so the closest I could get to was, and we even had a recording of this from a million years ago, Brian. I don't even know if it's findable. It's just jumping in my head now. But we made a recording, but this is what it sounded like. They'd have classical music, and the song would just end, and you'd start to fall asleep during the song, and then some guy. Well, they do this one. This would be the next song. The first one would just be some lullaby, and then this one would kick in next. Right, so they didn't select their songs to soothe you and put you to bed, but also Winchester from MASH, his whiter brother, would between every song, he'd be like, that was the Philadelphia Philharmonic playing Pachelbel's E-flat major, Pachelbel's canon, one of the most revered and important. Did I say it was E-flat? Conductor Dexter Hesse, who conducted he was a guest conductor on the film. It's all right, I'm awake now. I'm awake. The professor
was in class.
Yes, I now know everything about this movement, but I'd like to be asleep, and then
you'd like me to be asleep.
The next song would kick in, and they'd give you 4 or 5 minutes. You start to, and then this blowhard would jump back in again. So I got hold of Elise Eberwein from U.S. Air in 2006. She was EVP
Executive Vice President
of People and Communications.
Okay.
And I said to her, why don't you guys have a sleep channel? And she was like, started laughing at me, like, oh, why, blah, 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 blah. She was pushing back on me, doing the same thing everyone does with me. I was like, have a sleep channel for you. You program all 14 of the stations. Make one of them just
Enya.
Just Enya. Just easy classical or Enya or whatever. And don't have interruptions. Don't have anything.
I remember your point to her was, isn't the best customer a sleeping customer? And she's like, yeah. She was also a little bit sassy, too.
She was sassy.
She
She used to push back all the time. And I was like, I don't get why we're pushing back. You guys have been in the air doing this for 50 years, and no one's ever thought of this? Like, I've traveled every airline. I've never heard of it. I was like, why? Here's the thing. Many people like to sleep on the plane. 100% of the people who work on the plane want people to sleep on the plane. You program all the channels, just make one for sleep.
Yeah.
It'll be that much easier.
Help
a lot
us
of
help
pushback.
you.
But I hopped on to American, and I was flying back from D.C. or whatever a couple of weeks ago. And they have the sleep channel.
Nice.
They have the American sleep channel now. You have a...
But wait, did you bring it full circle?
Did I get back to her?
No, Elise now works for American Airline.
Oh,
she
sorry.
obviously brought this great idea over to her new company.
Yeah.
That's how she got hired.
Yeah.
Great idea.
I may not have the experience. I may not have the qualifications. What I got is a great idea.
They have
That was all mine.
guided meditations, bedtime stories, relaxing music, and nature sounds.
Oh, wow. They're aggressively embracing.
I unfortunately picked the sound of an impeller coming apart. And I popped up initially, obviously, in a cold sweat, you know, because it didn't come
Fight or
on
flight. Yeah, right.
for a while.
Right.
That's right.
They have a bedtime story channel?
I guess we
That's
gotta
awesome.
we gotta look
I need to
we gotta look
investigate.
into this. But either way, Elise Eberwein, our old friend, is now
You're
with
welcome.
American, and they now have a sleep
They've
channel.
embraced the sleep channel.
So I don't invent things. I just see them before other people see them. All right. And it's also insane how stupid we are. Like, why is you're programming your stations? One isn't dedicated to the thing that everyone wants to do on a plane, and you want everyone to do on a plane. Yeah. All right. Do we have an intro for Jordan Harbinger?
And now, some simple ways to better yourself in 2019. Brought to you by Intuit, proud makers of TurboTax, QuickBooks, and Mint. It's time for Harbinger of Success with Jordan Harbinger.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Adam. How you doing?
Good. Give us some tips that'll make our life better.
For sure. Actually, I'm giving you one that might make your life slightly worse in the short term, but I feel like that actually will resonate more with you, given just knowing what I know about you.
Okay.
There's this whole positivity movement right now where everybody on social media and honestly, a lot of these books are just kind of like, think positive, be positive. And it's actually a really crappy message. And a lot of psychologists are getting concerned over this sort of thing, yet probably young psychologists like me that are sick of positivity as well, because now everybody thinks that we have to be positive all the time to be successful. Otherwise, we've somehow failed as human beings. Like, if you're not an optimist, if you are not thinking about the positive side of every negative thing that happens in your life, you're not in the cult of positivity, and somehow you've just failed as a human. And it's actually really unhealthy. And a lot of people are suffering needlessly because they feel like they have to be happy and positive all the time.
Well, what's the balance? Because I think people like to be around positive people, like to work around positive people. On the other hand, we don't want a bunch of smoke blowing up our tukai.
Project positivity to the world and beat yourself up at home.
Oh, is that what we're saying?
That's what he's saying. That's what Jordan, we got you. Thanks,
There
buddy.
you go.
I like that.
Yeah. Nice job reading between the lines there, Brian, for sure. Yeah, I think, honestly, that's really accurate about maybe my strategy, and it sounds like yours too, but I'm not sure if that's the ideal. Positivity actually creates this negativity in people who are suppressing negative feelings, right? Because it dictates what feelings we're allowed to have. We can't worry, we can't be sad, but sometimes you should be. You shouldn't always be putting on a brave face. If you're sad, you're depressed, you're angry, you don't have to always let that go. In fact, I interviewed this psychologist, Todd Kashdan. He's a researcher on the Jordan Harbinger show, and he actually studied what we consider to be negative emotions like anger, depression, envy. And anger actually motivates us to step up to the plate. It enhances courage. It results in people getting the courage to solve problems at work and at home. And so what he's recommending is we use this as like a superpower. You know, if you're pissed off or you're envious or depressed, sometimes that's the kick in the pants you need to take action in a certain area. You should not ignore it. You should not suppress it because you think that's what other people want.
I'm trying to think. I've been thinking about this as it pertains to my own life, but there's a sort of right amount of envy. Like there's a version of, I see what that person is doing and I'd like to be doing that as well, and I'm sort of inspired by them.
Versus stewing on it.
Versus
why don't I have that?
Yeah, there's a kind of, or I'm ashamed by what they've done, or they're ahead of me, or they're whatever me. And I think there's a version of that is super motivating.
Sure.
And there's also a version of it that's debilitating. And then there's a version of it where you want to burn their house down with them in it, which is a little more Middle Eastern version of what we're talking about. But I think like you have to dial it in, but the right amount of, God, that guy's crushing it over there, and I want in on some of that. And what do I do to get there? I think the right amount of that is good. Mm-hmm. I worry that people detach themselves from the road that guy or gal took. See, my problem is when you go, that guy's crushing it with daddy's money. Now you're screwed. But if you go, that guy's crushing it because that guy never takes a weekend off and is totally focused and has been building this brand for whatever, then you go, oh, I could do that too.
Right.
There's no version of with daddy's money you could do.
Right.
Jordan, what do you think of that?
That's a really good point. In fact, envy is one of my favorites. If I have a pet negative emotion, it's going to be that one. Toxic envy, like you mentioned, is really bad. It harms our relationships. It harms ourselves. Because, of course, if you're toxically envious of someone, that's not good for you. You want to burn their house down with them in it. But it can motivate you, and it should. It can teach us, we listen to envy, it can teach us what we really want out of life by revealing what we wish we had. So, like, when I walk in to do a show with you and Drew, I'm like, this is going to be great. If I keep at it, I've got an exciting future ahead of me in this business, hopefully, right? All things considered, hopefully that's the case.
I think everyone should have an element of when you walk into someone's house or when you walk into someone's business, or it's a friend of yours, or it's a friend of yours, you're in their house, or it's a friend of yours, you're at their business, or whatever it is. There should be an element of you that goes, "Whoa, look what they're doing here. How might I emulate that, or modify it and do a version of it myself?" I mean, like, it's just, you walk into someone's house and you go, "Oh, I like what they've done here. Like, I like the colors they picked out, or whatever it is. I could do some version of this." Or maybe my next home will resemble this one in size and scale. Like, I think there's a healthy sort of, I don't know, maybe that's what's great about this country version of that. Like, I don't know, you can't do that in Cuba because you can't go up on, there's no overtime, there's no perks, there's no salesman of the year or any of that stuff. But I think we've all walked into businesses and sort of looked around and went, ooh, I like what they're doing here. And we walked into businesses and thought the other thing, too, right?
What's going on here?
Hey, Jordan.
Yeah.
Parting shots?
Yeah, for sure. So envy shows us things we thought were impossible or are not impossible. It increases our empathy. And, of course, the idea here is that anger, envy, depression, all the upsides to these can be harnessed as long as we embrace those bad emotions when we have them, instead of trying to suppress them and thinking that you have to be positive because that's what all your friends are doing on Instagram, or because your friend wrote a book or read a book about it. Without action when it comes to this, it's just irrational optimism, maybe a little naivete, and it's okay and, in fact, good for you to harness this negative stuff and help you move forward. So ditch the shame when it comes to this and use it as fuel. I think that's the line.
Nice.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate the input.
Thank you.
Harbinger of Success, brought to you by Intuit.
All right. You can check out Jordan on the Jordan Harbinger Show, available on Apple Podcasts, Podcast One. Derek Kaufman. I'm let down. Like in Pretty Woman, they wouldn't kiss.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
'Cause
prostitutes,
she doesn't kiss on the mouth.
Derek's the same way.
Brian's tried.
His last name. They never use his last name in TMZ. I never knew his last name.
I'd never seen the show, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen every. Here's how.
I only know people at daycare as so-and-so's dad.
Here's an emotional lightweight I am.
Step removed.
TMZ runs an hour-long best of on Saturdays, and it's a compilation of all the shows, the best ofs during the week.
Okay.
And it's an hour on Saturday, and I'll go down to run on the treadmill or work on the rowing machine or something. I'll go, ooh, it'll be a Saturday. And I'll go, where's my TMZ? And then I go to it, and I've seen every single story in the montage.
Right.
Every single one, which means I've seen every second of the entire week leading into it.
And you're still delighted and new?
I kind of know.
The shine's off.
Yeah, Jordan was cheating on... what the hell's her? The Kardashian and all that kind of good
That
stuff.
story's gotten a lot of airtime.
Oh yeah, a lot of airtime. Well, boy, do I know a lot of rappers, man. I know so many rappers now because of TMZ.
You know no rap songs, but every rapper.
Yeah.
I know all the rappers.
That's why you knew Nipsey Hussle.
I knew Nipsey Hussle. I know all the chains. There's 2 Chainz. 2 Chainz. There's a High. There's a Jewish fella.
Are you serious?
No.
I don't know.
Who decided, who looked at a High and went, not Jewy enough.
Yeah.
We need to drill out one.
More throat.
Like in the 70s, there was a drilled out High.
It's a chai.
It's a High.
It means life.
But were they all drilled out?
Yeah. I mean, that's
I mean, listen, I'm coming from the Italian horn.
right.
But that is tasteful compared to the High.
That's true.
It's restrained.
Yeah. You guys had like 3 horns on there. We just had the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, nothing better than a big High. All right. Let's see. So we'll bring Derek out here. First, I'll tell you about Intuit. Whether you're a small business owner, mother, or podcast host, we're all working toward a prosperous future. But prosperity doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. Maybe it's buying a home. Maybe it's starting a college fund. Or finally taking that trip to Hawaii.
Good stuff.
So, if you think about your vision for prosperity, probably worry about the time and the money and the obstacles. Intuit is here to give you the confidence to pursue your goals. Join the millions managing their finances with QuickBooks, TurboTax, or Mint. Everyone deserves a chance to prosper. Get started on your path to success right now. Learn more at intuit.com. That is INTUIT, intuit.com, powering prosperity. Intuit. Tony Bennett's back on the line?
Yeah, he just texted me. He's ready to.
All right, well, let's talk to him for 5 minutes before we bring Derek in here. Let's see if I can find him.
It's a big get the day after the championship.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're doing it. Normally,
Make room for him.
we don't take a A-lister like Derek and make him wait. But
He'll understand.
with a guy
I bet he's excited to hear him as we are.
Coach Tony Bennett on the blower. Yeah.
Victorious Virginia Cavaliers.
Yeah, and
Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Such a story. They were knocked out by 16 seed last year, right?
First and only number 1 seed ever to lose to a 16 seed.
Screw Jordan Harbinger. These are the kind of stories we're talking about, which is you get humiliated last year and a first time ever, like one got knocked out by the bottom of the barrel, and you come back and win the whole thing next year.
That's resilience.
It's a good story.
Yes.
It's a great story.
All right. Is he online something, or he's not popping up?
Still trying to get him on the line.
Well, he's celebrating. He's doing junkets.
Well, why don't we bring Derek in, and if Tony gets heated up, we'll do that. Yeah? No?
Oh,
No?
1 minute,
He's
1
on?
second.
Okay.
We have a ring.
I'll tell you guys, if you want to watch Not Taco Bell Material, my stand-up special, I would be ever so grateful. I think you'll enjoy it, and I think you should share it. And we just did it all ourselves, so please, you can go to iTunes or Amazon or Chassis, CHASSY, and check it out. I don't rent it for like $4 or something. All right, so Coach Tony Bennett, do we have an intro for him? We had something on him. No?
Yeah, everyone's been talking about Coach Bennett, so just to get everyone refreshed on who he is.
All right. Huh?
Suspense is killing.
Dawson's going to play it in a sec.
Only reason I said it is because you told me you had a montage of him doing it.
We do.
Oh, okay. All right. You want me to punch?
Virginia Cavaliers are the 2019 NCAA National Champions.
A year ago, this same program, Tony Bennett, what can you say, suffering one of the most embarrassing losses in college basketball history as the #1 overall seed. This time, redemption.
The basketball god said, you know what? We made you pay a price big time. For a year, you had to answer every question and constant about losing to a 16 seed, and we're going to reward you now. And oh, have they rewarded him. Tony, right now, Bennett has on that resume that golden word, national champ.
All right, let's see. Tony Bennett?
Okay, everybody, we're all right. We're champions again. Adam Carolla, you're always going to be my power forward down in the blocks. Okay.
He's jubilant.
Yeah, man. That is a big win.
I got a dunk on you, sweetie pie.
Tony,
congratulations, Coach.
Yeah, people didn't think you could do it. You were humiliated last season, and now you come back. What a story of redemption.
It is a great story of redemption, and I swear on Olden Polynesian, it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me, Adam Carolla. And I did a duet with Lady Gaga. Oh, the gold, silver, and gold is now mine to recruit away from. Oh, I can't say that out loud. Dr. Calipari.
Yeah, so this is even better than the duet you did with Lady Gaga.
Well, that loss last year, well, it was tough, Adam Carolla. You know, we lost to the 4,262nd seed Appalachian Latchkey College of Fire, Brush Management, and Masonry. It's a cooking school, and they won their playoff game, playing game against Fame.
Yeah.
Those kids from Fame, they're scrappy. They're going to live forever.
I got a few of the names of some of your players. There's Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome.
He took a trip on it. He came to play with me.
What was that about Kyle Guy? Sorry.
He took a trip on a train, baby. He put us into the playland. You know, that loss was the worst thing that ever happened to me last year, and I did a duet with Billy Joel.
Oh, Coach.
Yeah, you big shot, didn't you? Suck it, Chad Myler. Okay.
How about, I don't know, Tariq Owens? Is he a good ball player?
He's a black guy.
Oh, okay, I didn't know because Owens is
He's a hell of a kid. You know, I've never had a 5-star recruit in my entire time.
You never had a 5?
That's amazing. The planning, the dreaming, the scheming. If you get beaten by Appalachian Latchkey State.
Yeah. You never had a 5-star recruit.
It's hard to believe.
Never.
But you've had a handful of black chips, right?
We got some black chips, green chips. It depends on what casino. Tony Bennett and his marvelous orchestra, led by the young Quincy Jones, of course. It's a good life. That might have suck it.
I was reading some of the press clippings, and you're talking about how last year's loss drew you closer to the Lord.
Wow.
Well, as I said, I swear on Olden Polynesian is my Lord and Savior.
Tony, I know...
it can't all be Al Groh, Adam Carolla.
No, I get it. Tony, I know you've had a pretty busy 14, 18 hours, and I appreciate you carving out time for us.
Yeah.
Just in time. I got my ring just in time. I almost coached the Bulls in Chicago. I can't believe I'm on the Adam Carolla podcast. Bob Bryant, everybody, I love you.
Congratulations,
I even love
Coach.
that weird kid, the dancer, the Filipino man.
Yeah.
We lost to 4 white guys and an Egyptian last year. It was crazy.
Coach Tony Bennett, everyone. Thank you, Coach.
Hey, baby.
Love you. Podcast, you can hear him on More Stories as well. Tony's going to be showing up there. And Jay will be in studio. Tony Bennett will be in studio next week. So say hi to him there. All right, Derek Kaufman from TMZ in studio next.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Adam, I'm going to stop telling people about the show because every time I tell them, they realize that all of my material is just ripped off from you. Good job, guys.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Oh, that's sweet of you. But thanks. Thanks
Highest
for
form of
sharing.
flattery.
That's right.
Highest.
Hi. Derek Kaufman is here. Now I've learned his last name. TMZ, my favorite show, weeknights, 7 p.m. on Fox. We had Van Lathan in here. Makes a great team with Derek. Derek, funniest guy on that program.
Thanks.
So good to speak to you, my friend.
Hey, good to be here.
You went to Harvard, right?
Yeah.
And law school to Yale.
Yep.
And we're heading in you're an attorney, right?
Yeah, I'm an attorney. One of the two at TMZ.
So you were going down this path before TMZ was even really around, right?
Yes.
And so this is a very sort of bizarre place you ended up, right?
Bizarre. Yeah, took a hard left.
How did that come about?
So I went to college, went to law school, got out, chased the same dream that every lawyer chases. I went to a big law firm. I had a lot of money, and I had some school debt to pay down, and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I was a bankruptcy attorney for 7 years at a big law firm downtown, and a woman who left my firm worked for TMZ for a couple years, and it's a rough and tumble environment. She didn't love it so much. I kept in touch with her, and I said, I'd love to have that job. I have zero experience in anything that TMZ is about, but if Harvey will meet with me, he might hire me. Met him, and he hired me. That was it. No experience.
The format is great because everyone just gets in a sort of semicircle, and they have the smart guys and the dumb chicks and everything in between, and then they just go off on these stories, mostly busting each other's chops.
Mostly busting my chops.
You're the number
I'm like
one
a target for some reason.
You're the number one recipient.
Yeah.
Well, you got the Harvard cape hanging over your shoulders, but you do bust everyone else's chops.
Yeah,
as well.
I dish it out, but I think I'm found insufferable or annoying. I've never seen myself that way, but I'm generally perceived as insufferable in that office, and it's because I'm in an environment with I think a lot of 20-year-olds, and I don't think that we see the world the same way.
Well, the guy who gets it the most is Harvey, the guy who's running the whole thing. Which
Yes.
You've never seen a boss picked on to the extent that Harvey gets picked on.
He's picked on 2 hours a day. Don't forget that.
Right.
It's our one time to punch at him, and we just let loose.
Yeah, but he's smart because he understands the recipe works, and it wouldn't work if he started pulling guys into his office, like, off camera and going, hey, man, you crossed the line, or creating a tentativeness.
That's right. That's right.
And so it's kind of
What a novel idea.
He
kind
lets
of a free-for-all.
He lets you just unleash on him, and it's cathartic every day because there's a lot of hostility that's built up towards Harvey over the course of every day. And so getting to take your whacks, he's like the piñata in the morning. And then the cameras are off and he's your boss again.
I'm trying to think, I feel I've always kind of talked about something I've never had, but I've always been envious of it with other folks, which is like a personal momentum. Like Harvey just goes, I want to do this, so I'm going to do this. And everyone else has a bunch of voices in their head going, it's never going to work out, or what? Who's going to let you do that? And he just goes, I'm doing it. I don't know how you bestow that personal momentum on somebody.
Yes.
We all know those people. If you have personal momentum, if your personal momentum, if this is, if it's mixed martial arts, and your personal momentum is jiu-jitsu, you don't even need all the rest of the skills. You'll go out and win almost every single time you climb into the octagon because you're so strong in personal momentum. You might not be able to strike or throw kicks or grapple or anything, but the personal momentum, we all know the people. They're not that smart. They're not that funny. They're not that bright. They're not that anything, but they don't know it.
That's right.
And they just sail.
They got it.
It just carries you over the finish line. I mean, I've never seen a guy who, from his idea, conception to execution of it, is the shortest period of time. He has no voices, no governor sort of telling him, let's pump the brakes here. He doesn't operate that way. He operates at full speed all the time, from 4 a.m. till 6.
I'm trying to think of how much of that is nature, how much of it is nurture, how much you can just go, well, tell your kid every thought he had is the best thought ever, but you're going to have a little douche when they're older, and you can shower them with praise and affirmations, positive, that you'll create a monster.
Yeah.
Like there's some sort of weird alchemy that needs some salt in the sugar or something. I don't know. How do you create that?
You're 100% right. I mean, Harvey is the only person like this I know in my life, so I can only sort of analyze him, but he's extraordinarily charming on top of being hard charging. And so there's this sort of idea that he's Uncle Harv. You want to please Uncle Harv. And even though he can be tough on you and maybe vicious even at times, you love Harvey. I mean, Harvey has got that sort of charisma, and you're just want to do well by him. You want to impress him, and he just has that aura. He walks around that office, and you just believe in Harvey. That's kind of the feeling. I don't know if Van shares that with me, but that's how I feel.
Van had high praise for Harvey as well, and to me, we'll just try to figure this out. I think it's dovetails into authenticism, if that's even a word.
Authenticity? I'd go with that.
I made authenticism a word out, but authenticity.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley's like super authentic guy. Like he's not the best at a broadcaster or a comedian or whatever, but he's so authentic.
He's not polished, but he is. He's
so authentic that you're totally attracted to him. Like everyone loves Charles Barkley because of his authenticism.
Yes.
So it's a syndrome where a young child has to tell the truth.
Yes.
It's a Jim Carrey movie.
Don't get vaccinated, kids.
So is Harvey authentic? And that's kind of like you just go, oh, that's who he is all the time.
All the time. So I mean, that show and what drew me to it is the job in general is there is no script or anything. We're all just ourselves out there, and we're hoping for the alchemy to sort of work every day. And there's no on and off Harvey. He's the same guy the entire day, and I think that's what you mean by he's just authentic. He's unguarded in everything he says, and he also sort of convinces himself that the absurd points that he's making are true, and that's very odd to me because I think he's bright. He's a really bright guy, but he buys into a lot of the nonsense of,
but he's so
what
charming,
we're doing.
He makes you think, well, maybe he's right.
Yeah, you want to believe him, and if you have a point against him, he'll convince you that like you're wrong, even though your point is like clearly correct, clearly in some objective fashion. That's some of the frustration you'll see. I'm out there sort of arguing these points, and I feel like I'm clearly winning, but yet he always wins.
You guys,
I don't know how that happens.
It's called the Carolla method.
Yeah, like they're just winning by sheer force of will, right? Like not by logic or reason, just sheer force of personality.
Facts.
Yeah, yelling, berating.
Yelling and berating.
It's helpful. It's a strong
yeah, that's why I'm the boss. Let's see, Brody Stevens, right? He was like a favorite, and he used to come like guest host, and sometimes when Harvey's not there, they'll have like sort of the guest, whoever, celebrity come in there and do it. He used to do that, right?
Yeah, he's before my time. He would come and guest host, and it's sort of a legendary sort of event at TMZ when Brody came because he was his energy was so chaotic that it was hard to cut a show around it. So sometimes the guest hosts don't really get the rhythm. I mean, you've seen it enough that it has a certain flow because we're making fun of Harvey, but if 2 Chainz comes in, people will pull their punches a little bit. They'll feel uncomfortable making fun of 2 Chainz in the same way. So in my opinion, the show sings the most with Harvey, right? I mean, because
Adam, you might be a nice little fill-in over there.
Yeah, why have you never come in?
I could come in there as, hi, guy. Hi, guy.
Hello.
I'd love to do that.
Would you come in?
Oh, absolutely. Hi, guy. I literally have seen every episode, and it's appointment watching for me because, and the reason I'll never miss it is because I go like run on the treadmill or pull on the rowing machine or do whatever for like the length of a TMZ, and there's
a Saturday TMZ.
No, that's an hour.
You need
Come on now.
22 minutes in and out, yeah.
I'll let it run through the commercials. But
support the sponsors.
The thing is, it's a perfect show to watch when you're running on a treadmill or rowing on where it's a good workout show. It's not Game of Thrones or it's not. What I'm saying is,
it plays in gyms. That's where it plays the most because you don't need the volume on. You can have it on. You'll enjoy it in maybe a little deeper way or a different way. But it's just a series of flashing images, and that's what you want to watch. It's high paced,
second only to playing in the gym to the X Games Snowmobile Freestyle Championships, where you need no sound at all.
Sound heard it.
Yeah,
Guys
guys in onesies doing crazy things on the back of a snowmobile, and then everyone's surprised when someone gets hurt. Like, this guy got badly hurt. Oh,
Really?
There's a full Superman 40 feet in the air hanging off the back of a Kawasaki snowmobile on ice. Something went wrong?
We all feigned shock, but we wanted to see the snowmobile on top of something.
What could it have been? I can't imagine what
Was
would
it
have
allergy
happened.
related?
So he was inverted, fully inverted on a 700-pound snowmobile, 45 feet above the ground.
Possibly go wrong.
Hey.
Bird in them?
It's crazy that everyone doesn't die every single day, right?
The medal should be for not dying.
Yes, it should be. So Derek's also got a podcast out, right?
Yeah.
Behind the Bar.
Yeah,
Available on Apple Podcasts.
It's Jason, the other lawyer, and
Yes.
me, who the non-bearded one who stands next to me.
You guys are the best when you argue, because it's great when the two lawyers dig in.
We've been going at it a lot lately because we sex
I haven't
trafficking,
covered
but that's where
it,
things stand now.
But human trafficking, the difference between white slavery or sex slavery or whatever and human trafficking, is there a difference? It all gets down to sex,
Well,
right?
there's also, when people talk about human trafficking, they talk about indentured servants as nannies, housekeepers, that kind of thing. So who really, I think it's a wider net.
Right. So you're just banging
So
your nanny.
all roads really lead to sex trafficking, though.
sure,
Usually
maybe,
you're not
sure.
trafficking them. Yeah,
Right.
you can traffic them as a nanny that you then want to traffic in sex, because I think all the money is in human sex
Right.
trafficking.
Oy vey.
Right. All right.
So we'll see what happens.
That's a
with that.
light topic. What's
Right.
next?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So the Kentucky doctor seen in that now very famous viral video that's come up a time or two, being removed off of United Airlines, he is now speaking publicly for the first time since 2017.
They spoke publicly at the time.
Yeah.
He screamed publicly. On April 9th, 2017, David Dow was traveling from O'Hare in Chicago to Louisville when an airline employee informed him that he would need to deplane because the flight was overbooked. He refused to get off the plane. He felt he was being discriminated against. He says he then remembers being pulled from his seat, but says he doesn't much remember anything else. I have two clips. This is from his interview on GMA with Amy Robach. Here's part of his recollection of what happened.
Have you watched the video?
Later on,
What's that like to watch?
I just cried.
You can hear you screaming in pain.
I don't know, I just cried.
Dow suffered a concussion, broken
Good.
nose, and 2 missing teeth.
Good.
He says he was heading home to open a free clinic for veterans when the aviation security officers first approached him.
Do you remember how quickly things escalated?
I think very fast.
This is scintillating.
I think very quick.
Were you expecting it to get physical at any
Yes.
point?
Whenever you
No.
climb on a commercial flight, you always you're taking your life in your hands. You're always ready to do combat. Yes,
hard
yes,
hitting questions.
That's what we do.
And when he thinks that things escalated quickly, they never escalate that quickly. There's always a chance before you're dragged.
We're asking
through
you for the
through
40th time to get up, sir.
Get up.
My favorite person on the planet is the dingbat
Yenta.
chick who's sitting 3 seats away, sees a guy in the windbreaker with the mace on his belt saying, "Sir, you need to stand up. Sir," 45 warnings. At some point he goes, "Sir, I'm going to physically remove you." And at some point when he puts his hands on the doctor, the chick yells, "Oh my God, what's happening?" And it's like, you have no context?
Exactly what we laid out.
So
yes.
you're just in the shower, and we just slung the curtain over and dove into it with you with security guard. It's like, nobody knows what's happening more than you do.
I was just reading my Sky Mall.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, and the clips, every clip that was run was as he's being dragged, so it seems very urgent and sudden.
Yes.
It doesn't have the preceding 15 minutes that they said, you don't own the damn seat. Get out. Get off the plane. There's no racial element to it. This
What
story,
a pussy.
This story,
What a
this story
horrible
bothered me for a
fucking
long
piece
time.
of shit this guy is. And also, it's like, look, we've all been there. My wife's been there. We've all been in that situation where maybe there's a mistake, maybe there's a paperwork issue, maybe there's something. When somebody with authority tells you to get up and walk off the plane, you get up and walk off the plane. You can
Listen to 'em.
Cry racism later, cry whatever later.
Deal with it.
Get them to give you a voucher to go to Maui or whatever that is, or some free Fiesta mix. But for that moment, for everyone else on the goddamn plane, stand up and obey. Otherwise, you'll be dragged off the plane.
Absolutely.
There is no scenario where they ask you 20 times and they go, you know what, I'm hoarse.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the lounge.
Deal with it later. You know?
Deal with it later.
Deal with it later.
That's right.
Well, at the risk of making you madder, there is one more clip.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, I want to hear what he
Here's
says.
Dow talking about his life after the incident and after his settlement, by the way, for an undisclosed amount.
3 weeks later, Dow reached an undisclosed settlement with the airline. Dow had instantly become the source of national headlines, his personal life under a microscope, including a once temporarily suspended medical license.
How did you handle all of that attention?
Get the point, I have to hide him.
Could you go to work? Could you
I
leave the
can't.
house?
No. I stay for months in the house.
Now
Yeah,
retired
'cause
Dow
you're a
says his
fucking
faith and
lunatic.
charity work helped him through all the unwanted attention. And today, he can see the good that came from the experience.
Yeah, he hammered a check for $500K.
And he's a
That's
real
the good.
shrinking violet. I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave the house. You were a guy who made a scene on an airplane and got dragged down the runway.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You're
either.
a guy who makes scenes. That's who you are, Dow.
Guy's a pile of shit. I hate him.
Yeah.
I hate him.
You don't have strong feelings against David Dow. I had the same.
I want to know what I would love to know how long the lead up was. You know what I mean?
Oh, it was long.
I'm imagining it was.
It's always long. Well, we saw tape of they get rid of the convenient part because it makes it look more of a victim.
Right.
But there was a lot of you got to get up.
Right.
I mean,
And
Of
also
course there was. Airline doesn't want this.
they don't want
They
it,
don't want
and
this.
whatever. Even if it was 7 times,
Sure.
still the
That's
person
significant.
told
It's
you to
enough.
stand up and walk off the goddamn plane. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And the story as presented was pretty puffy. What are we listening to? Oh, what?
Sorry.
The story as it was presented was pretty puffy. It was like his life was under a microscope. So he temporarily suspended. I imagine suspending a medical license is a procedure. Like you don't just like call him up one day, hey, your license is suspended. Like you probably have to have board hearings.
Yeah.
You probably have to have something written up, investigation. Like it's not just he lost his medical license temporarily. It's like, oh, you had your medical license suspended. You probably did something significant.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Sorry. What's next?
Well, this just came up on my news notifications, and we did pretty much cover it, but it's funny how they worded it on People. It says, Lori Loughlin rejected a plea deal before getting hit with new charges. Sources say they decided to roll the dice.
Good luck.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that. So getting back to that beautiful, heartfelt Conway Twitty song from earlier about possible child rape.
Boom, boom, boom.
It reminded me of this story. Former Rolling Stones bassist Bill Wyman has been booted from the DocFest Film Festival in Sheffield, England in June. He was scheduled to do a Q&A session, which makes sense because it was a documentary about him, but organizers took back the invitation following protest over his relationship with 13-year-old Mandy Smith in 1984. In 1984, by the way, Bill was 47. He was never charged, and when she turned 18, they got married and divorced a couple years later. And by the way, if that's not weird enough,
Wait a minute. He was never charged, and they got divorced when she turned 18?
Yeah, they got together when she was 13. It went public when she was 16. They got married when she was 18, and I think divorced when she was 20.
I mean,
But she says all consensual. They were like, even at 13, she, to the extent she
I don't
could.
want to defend the
she was
guy,
a
but
party girl
at
and-
18, crow's feet start cropping up, the breasts start sagging, stretch marks around the midsection. I mean, you're knocking on the door at 20 at that point. I mean, it's time.
right around
That's
the
why
corner.
they got divorced.
We
Yeah,
know,
you
like,
see the writing on the wall.
Well, you know when a car hits like 100,000 miles and
it
seals
shows.
start going and it starts
Wear and tear.
Wear
It
and
still
tear.
works
Yeah.
technically. I
It's time to
suppose.
kind of trade up.
Yeah.
It'll
I
get you
understand.
there.
You make a valid
Can't
point.
blame the man.
There is a weirder part of this story, by the way. So prior to the couple getting divorced in 1993, Wyman's oldest son, Stephen, he was 30 at the time, he decided he was going to marry Mandy's mother, Patsy, who was 46. That couple's marriage reportedly lasted 2 years. They divorced in 95. So a lot of swapping in
Fun.
the Smith-Wyman.
I hear these stories all the time. Like, my dad got remarried. I had a stepsister, but I wasn't like, well, I guess I got to bang her now. Like, I was just like, I guess I have a stepsister.
Those are the cards
Like,
you're dealt.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
I don't
My
feel
hands are tied.
obliged. I just felt like, all right.
Here's my question. Does a guy like Bill Wyman survive this? Is he famous enough to survive this? I feel like MJ is now kind of surviving MJ.
But
right?
is he
People
famous?
are playing his music again. I think if you're big enough, you survive it.
But
I think Wyman's got it.
I'll take the other side. Is Bill Wyman famous enough to even be impacted by this? Or does anyone outside this room know who Bill Wyman is?
Any classic rock fans, I imagine.
You think so?
Well, he was part of the Stones.
Not by sight. Like you certainly wouldn't recognize him walking past. But you'd go Bill Wyman, and then you'd go of the Rolling Stones, and people go, oh yeah. And then the deep cutters, like the people did the classic rock DJing and stuff, know Bill Wyman, but needs some sort of context, I think. So he could probably fly under the radar.
Skate.
I have to admit, when I first saw the story, I was like, how is he related to Jane Wyman, and what happened? So even I was off on
She's
that.
an outlaw.
Yeah.
Scandalous, I tell you. So he's been asked to leave.
Well, he's no longer invited to the Q&A about his life.
Yeah.
Because
someone else is speaking on your behalf.
Right.
Well,
Charlie Watts is coming in.
From what I read, because Mandy Smith apparently ended up writing a book, and from all this from her perspective, and she was a 13-year-old party girl in the North London party circuit. Her and her sister, who was like 15, they looked older. They were friends with all the bouncers. They got into some like award show party, and that's where Bill saw her dancing up front, in like the snake pit. And
Bouncers or bouncy castle? Where do you mean? Who's she friends with?
I'm
all
gonna
the
look it up
bouncy
again.
castles.
Yep. And then he knew how old she was. He said, I'm going to introduce you to my bandmates. Don't tell them. And then when she was 14, they'd go out on the town, and she was to tell everyone that she was a secretarial intern. Or
Because
she was
14 is much more acceptable.
Yeah.
At that point, you bring her out on the town.
Right. And it wasn't until she was 16 that it was revealed she was 16.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Just wait a few months.
Get ready, Max Pat.